How the house of God, why it needs repairing. Because people become negligent and neglected spiritually. Neglect the altar. Neglect worship. Huh? Then we have our broken altars and our broken worship. Huh? Because somebody neglected the house of God. You know how the house of God becomes dead and still and idle? Because somebody stopped seeking the Lord. Huh? Because somebody stopped living holy. Because somebody stopped fighting. Huh? But when the work was finished, when it was completed, you got to go read this in another book. The book that I read out of tonight didn't say this. 2 Chronicles 24 says this. It goes in more detail. But 2 Chronicles 24 doesn't say repairing the breaches. That's what I liked. 2 Chronicles just says repairing the house of the Lord. It says when the work was finished, the house of God was in its state. In other words, it was like it was in the beginning. In its original state. In other words, it's saying you couldn't even tell it had been broken. When God gets done, you won't even be able to see it. Are you sure you came out of a broken marriage? Are you sure you had cancer? Huh? Are you sure you were abused mentally? I certainly can't tell. But it doesn't stop there. That would have been good enough for me when it said back to its state like it was in the beginning. Like when Solomon first built it. But it doesn't stop. Stop there. It says, and strengthened. Not only was it restored back to its original state, but if anything, it was made stronger and better. God has a way of repairing and restoring and making you even better and stronger than you were in the beginning. That's good. That's God. That's how God works. God's going to use you. God's going to use you. Listen. Be obedient. God's going to use you. But you gotta listen. I read this story about, and I'm closing. I read this story about this man who bought one of these new cars that speak to you. And why is it always a woman that speaks to you? It's always a woman's voice. You know? Nobody can tell you what to do like a woman. I think that's right. You know, he got in this car and he said, and he rode down the road and she said, your seatbelt is unfastened. I said, put his seatbelt on, you know. And every time he would forget his seatbelt, your seatbelt is unfastened. He put his seatbelt on. Then he was riding down the road one day and that lady came on. Her voice came on and it said, you're getting low on fuel. And he just kind of kept driving and ignoring that voice. And all right now. And he drove a little further and that voice said, you're getting low on fuel. And he just kept ignoring that voice. And she kept telling him, you're getting low on fuel. Finally, he pulled off the side of the road, jumped out, looked under the dash, and found the wire that activated her voice and yanked on it. He said, I'll fix her. And he kept driving down the road. And he ran out of gas. And he could hear voice laughing, saying, I told you. Why is it we ignore that voice inside of us? Huh? You better listen to it. You better listen to it. Let's stand.